Hey everybody, Ed Homewood, Old Guy Hi-Fi channel. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today should be a really interesting video. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive on this product here, the FiiO K17, which is a really amazing headphone amp and much, much more than that. So sit back, relax, and let's get going on this review. So what is the FiiO K17? Well, it's a $950 desktop headphone amp, preamp, DAC, analog to digital converter. It's got line inputs, it's a streamer, it's got all kinds of functions in it. It's a really, really compelling product. So let's go over kind of some of the specs, and I'll be putting specifications up here, images and so forth, because trying to hold the device up to the camera isn't going to be very productive. So as far as its performance as a DAC, it's really unique, and it uses my favorite DAC chipset. It is the AKM AK4499 4191 chipset. Now, this is a very different kind of chipset. It is using one AKM 4491EX and two 4499 EQs. And that's a really fascinating configuration. We'll talk about it a little bit. It does have, this is really well built. I'm not kidding you. It does have an Ingenic X2000 CPU. It uses three AccuSilicon low phase femtosecond audio crystal oscillator clock, so very good at jitter reduction and latency issues and things like that. It does have Bluetooth, it does have Wi-Fi streaming, although I had some issues with the application to get it to work. I think my tablet is just too old. It's an old Samsung. It does do USB decoding on USB in, and it can do 32-bit 768 DSD 512, and on the SPDIF inputs it can do 24-bit 192 and DSD 64. Now here's the interesting thing. It's got SPDIF output, so it's got an analog to digital converter. So if I came in on a line in, let's say on a turntable, I can go out digitally to another DAC, and the output would be 24-bit 192 as well. As I mentioned, it does have a streaming function, although I could not get it to work, and that's my fault. It's not the issue of the unit itself. So let's talk about the audio specs. So it is a fully balanced design. It has a frequency response, and I'll put the specifications up here, 20 hertz to 90,000. Really good specifications. The interesting thing about it is the output power and how the amplifier works, and we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that. But output power is 1800 milliwatts at 16 ohms, 4000 milliwatts at 32 ohms, 950 milliwatts at 300 ohms. But on the balanced output, it will produce 4000 milliwatts. It does have a really beautiful 35 watt linear power supply with 18,800 microfarads of capacitance. We'll look at that when we go inside. So let me spin this thing around. Let's talk about inputs and outputs. Well, let's take a look at the back of the unit, and I'll insert a big close-up picture here so you can see it much better. These two devices on either side are the Wi-Fi antenna and Bluetooth antenna. We've got master power switch, IEC power socket. We have an RJ45 jack for CAT cable if you want to wire it to your network. We have a USB-A and a USB-C input for USB streaming. We have balanced outputs on Neutrik balanced output connectors, really nice. We have a trigger in. We have single-ended out. We have line in. We have a ground lift for the USB if we need it. We have down here, it's hard to see, a balanced on a 4.4, balanced input on 4.4. We have optical in, coaxial in, and this is where it gets interesting. We have optical out and coax out. This actually will take an analog signal in on the line input, convert it to digital, and output it again if you want to go to a different DAC or do something else with it. Also has a grounding look. So as you can see, it's a really full-featured unit. So now let's take a minute, and I want to talk about some of the technology, and then we're going to open it up and look inside, and then we'll talk about the music, and we'll talk about what I thought about it. So the K17 is full of technology that you guys know I love to nerd out on. So one of the things that's really fascinating to me is the amplifier design. It's what's called an OP plus transistor current driving amplifier design. Now, OP stands for operational amp or op amp. Now, you can't swap the op amps, but it is really interesting in that it uses an op amp to provide the necessary voltage gain to a Darlington pair of output transistors, NPN, PNP, or in this case, maybe MOSFETs, but I think they're just regular bipolars. Then it operates in a full class AB mode, so it got a ton of power. Again, it is a high current device, and when we take a look inside, you'll see what I'm talking about. Also, too, I think this, and again, because I'm a big AKM Velvet Sound fan, that uses the flagship DACs from AKM, the 4499 EX EQ plus the 4191 EQ. And it's interesting in that it uses a single 4191 to drive to work with a pair of 4499s. So what it is, it's paired with an 8-channel to 4-channel low-pass filter, and that's designed to remove common mode interference, of course, which is balanced, fully balanced. That's what common mode rejection means. So obviously really good separation, really good dynamics. And again, it features a fully separate digital and analog structure based on a new technology and incorporates AKM's new what they call DWA routing, or data weighted average routing. And again, that's designed to kind of really clean up the signal, reduce background noise immensely, and just make the resolution higher. It's a really fascinating technology. Well, as I mentioned, the K17 also does analog to digital conversion, and it does it with an ES 9821Q ADC chip. Now, all of that is controlled by a DSP chip, and the DSP chip offers some noise shaping and all kinds of other stuff. But here's the interesting thing. Even the digital outputs have a ultra low phase noise femtosecond clock oscillator. So even the output signal on digital from this, after it's a line in analog signal has been converted to digital and output, it is jitter reduced, or as much jitter reduction as can be applied reasonably, obviously, given the circuit design. Now, the DSP chip does offer a 31-band parametric EQ, although I was never really able to access this because, again, I think my tablet is too old to work properly with the app. So again, it just offers a ton of flexibility, especially goes into and goes out. We're going to take a closer look at the front panel. It is a touch screen and it can do a lot of stuff. I'm going to do a zoom in on that. But first, before we do that, let me open this thing up. We'll talk about the inside, and then we'll look at the front panel. Then we'll talk about briefly some of the music I used, and then I'll summarize my final thoughts. So give me just a second to reconfigure. Well, the looking inside portion of the video is going to be rather short. You can see this thing's really well constructed. Now, I was able to get this board up a little bit and shoot some pictures in going this way. That's all I've got. I've got some pictures coming in this way to show you the output transistors, output devices, the DAC chips, and so forth and so on. But really the key things are huge linear power supply, Nichicon power caps, really well executed. On this board here, we've got our XMOS processor, we've got our CPU for DSP, we've got our SPDIF receivers and SPDIF outputs, our A to D converter is there as well. And again, as I said, I'll insert pictures there where you can see the AKM 4499, the two of those being serviced by a single 4191. You'll also see the output devices. There's a large number of output devices for full class AB. This is a very powerful amplifier. It is built literally like a full-size audio amplifier. Quite a remarkable piece. Hats off to FiiO. This does sit at the top of their product line for headphone amps, and you can see why. They've lavished a ton of technology and a ton of engineering on this thing. Just really, really interesting. Anyway, so let's button this thing up. Let's talk about a couple of the songs I used, and then we're going to summarize my thoughts on how it sounded. Well, here we are looking at the front panel of the FiiO K17. Really interesting product. So we'll start over here. We've got our on-off switch, obviously our display. These are our settings. So we have a number of different kind of function settings. So PO means this is a headphone amp only. So you can have headphone amp and pre, or just headphone amp, or just pre, or LO, which is line out. So this would just be a source going into another preamplifier or whatever. And then we have our gain settings: low, medium, high, super high, and ultra high. We have a USB in on the front. We have a 6.3 millimeter quarter-inch headphone jack, 4.4 Pentagon balanced, and of course XLR balanced, our volume control and our menu control, and again our display. And when you do volume, you can see it there. I can also, let me go, the volume go away. I can also access menu things here directly, in addition to swiping over Let's let it settle in and find a setting, in addition to swiping over and doing this. Now you notice the colors on the knobs change because it's trying to pair for Bluetooth. There's nothing to pair to, so we're going to go ahead and get out of that. We'll go ahead and come back here and we'll do the USB. Now we're going to do a close-up on all the functions on that touchscreen, but really interesting device, really compelling, really easy to use and well laid out. So anyway, that's the front panel of the FiiO K17. Well, here we are looking at the display on the FiiO K17. And what I want you to see is real quick here shows our input USB, shows it largely. I have the Jazz EQ on. Over here shows status of preamp and then the volume, set volume. We're doing PCM at 44 kilohertz. So if I adjust the volume, you'll see the volume bar adjust. I can also adjust it from the remote control, which is really handy. And then when we go back to the main display, you'll see that it changed here, the volume. So you get a quick look there. So as I touch the screen, if I swipe it this way, that shows me all of my options: play, setting, equalizer, filter, max volume. I can preset a max volume. So if I plug in a headphone, turn it on, I don't blow my ears out. Balance, network access, brightness of the display, screen time if you want to have it turn off. The RGB lights, the RGB lights are interesting. That's for the knobs. They can flash, glow. You'll see they're pulsing right now. You can set it up to do different colors and things like that. There is a theme, and I've changed the theme here. Oh, sorry, I hit equalizer and I didn't mean to. Let's go back to the home screen. And let's go back to there. So theme is, I can change the theme from the blue theme you see here or the amber theme, which should be coming up here. It's got to restart to do so. It'll just take a second, but when it comes up, it'll be a kind of a high resolution amber screen. You'll get to see the full startup sequence as well. There's a little animation at the beginning of it. You'll see there some, stars or whatever. And again, that's the amber screen. So we'll continue in that. So again, swipe over, we've got idle time, USB audio, language, others, and about, and of course you can update and so forth from there. So let's go back to the home screen. Now if I swipe from this side, it gives me my inputs and different functions there. As you can see, this thing is super well laid out, and it's really easy to use. I really, really like this thing. I'm going to go back to my old original theme. Again, it's going to restart. But as you can see, this thing has tremendous features. It really has an awesome sound quality. So anyway, let's talk about some of the music I used, and then I'll summarize my final thoughts. Well, as you can see from looking inside the FiiO K17, this thing is really well constructed. It is built like a very high-end amplifier. I mean, I've opened up other stuff for you guys, and it is that same level of build quality. It's remarkable. Very, very interesting piece. So anyway, real quick, how did I test it? I used a bunch of different headphones. I used my Sennheiser Massdrop 6XX. I used the FiiO FT1, regular FT1 headphones, 150 bucks. These things are amazing little headphones for closed-back. And my reference headphones, of course, are the FiiO FT5s, and that's what I use for most of it. This had no trouble driving anything at all, really. It did a wonderful job with all of it. So anyway, let's talk about a little bit about the music I used and some final thoughts. Well, for the music, and I'll put in chapters so you can skip ahead if you wish to, I used my headphone hi-fi playlist on Tidal. There'll be a link to it in the video description. And I used a couple different songs. Well, I used all the songs, and I used a lot of songs. I've been listening to this headphone amp literally for months. It's been on a bit of an embargo for the video, though. So I've been using it day in and day out. You've seen it in B-roll of other stuff. It's an amazing piece. So I use this headphone hi-fi playlist from Tidal. The first track I want to talk about is a track called Time Lapse, reimagined by Mercan, Dede, and I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's off an EP called Reimagined Volume 1, Chapter 1, and it is a reimagining of Ludovico Einaudi's compositions by a Turkish-Canadian musician named Mercan Dede. Now the collaboration blends Einaudi's minimalist piano pieces. That's amazing stuff. I've used him before, with Dede's fusion of traditional Sufi music and contemporary electronic sounds. It is really, really cool. The track is very interesting fusion of Einaudi's kind of really emotional, spare, very ambient sounding piano with this Dede's very atmospheric arrangements, good bass line, good rhythm, good interesting things going on in the background. It's a very immersive experience, really, really interesting. And on the same playlist, I included the other track off this same EP called Twice. This is fascinating stuff. There is a full-on playlist on Tidal for this particular set of reimagined songs. There's about 6 or 8 of them. It's well worth a listen. So what did I listen to next? So the next track is this track from Oleta albums called Rhythm of Life off her album Circle of One from 1990. This was her breakthrough album. Oleta has a strong gospel, strong jazz vocal background. She's got a very powerful voice, but it can be very delicate, very intimate, really, really beautiful. This is a good album to showcase those vocal talents that she does have. Now, the interesting thing is, Oleta Albums was discovered by Roland Orathabal of Tears for Fears, and she was a backup singer on their Seeds of Love album on a couple of different tracks. And so he helped produce this album, Circle of One, and he appears in backing vocals on this particular track, Rhythm of Life. It's just really interesting. This album was really successful for her. The big song on it, not one of my favorites, but the big hit was Get Here, and it really established her as a major force in contemporary soul music. She does a lot of jazz stuff. Her discography is really good. She blends kind of gospel and pop and jazz. And I think this is just a wonderful album. So anyway, now that we've talked about the music, why don't we talk about what I thought of the sound of this thing? Anyway, so sound quality. I got to tell you, this thing is unbelievable sounding. On every headphone, with every source, it just sounds amazing. It is clear and open and powerful. I never felt that the headphones weren't getting the absolute best signal. It literally, comparing it to other headphone amps that I've had in, the little FiiO K11's a nice piece, but it's just a very small, convenient, pocket-sized kind of headphone amp. I've had some other headphone amps in from other companies, the Lapse G's, and I've had some from Duke Audio, little portable, little 5-volt devices, not full-on, 35-watt linear power supply devices. And those all sounded good, but this thing just took it to another level. You know what? I just did some X Duo stuff, and that was really good because of the tubes. The X Duo, the TA32, was a remarkable unit. It had a different DAC chip. It had that swappable ROM DAC chip. And then I just did the TA20 Plus, and that just is a tube headphone amp preamp device. The tubes add a particular character to the sound that's very nice and very engaging. And I think I called the TA32 an endgame headphone amp. And I'm going to qualify that statement and say, if you want a tube sound, yeah, it is. If you want just absolute immense power and unbelievable resolution and very, very precise, detailed, not cold, not fatiguing, but you just want the most accurate sound possible, this could be your solid state end game headphone amplifier. This thing is absolutely remarkable. It truly is. I found it engaging. Now, using it as a preamp, it was so cool. You guys may remember I did the FiiO turntable with the LED lights on it. I had it plugged into this because that had a phono preamp built into it. And I had a full system on the desktop, with either the ELAC DB53s or my Philharmonic True Mini monitors, which I really love. This thing delivered on all fronts. Now, it was kind of fun. It has preset EQs. I couldn't get into the EQ again because of the app issue I was having, but the preset EQs came in really handy, and I wind up kind of settling on the jazz EQ as being the one I really liked. It gave a little extra bass to the Philharmonics. This thing sounds crisp, clear, clean. I think it's highly resolving. I love the sound of those AKM DAC chips. It's just, they have a warmth and a detail to them that I just think is unrivaled. And I've had some other, like I said, headphone amps in here with ESS chips in it. This thing just smokes them all. This is just a truly remarkable, and it is not inexpensive, believe me. At $950, this is a pricey unit. Now, everybody's going to ask how I would compare it to the K9 AKM. Very, very similar in sound. However, this definitely has more power and more drive and more kind of meat on the bone. I don't know that it was maybe slightly more resolving. If I really dug in and listened deep, I probably did hear more. The K9 AKM still is an absolute bargain as far as I'm concerned. How does it compare to the Hifi EF 400 Himalaya ladder deck headphone amp? It's different. That's only a $400 amp. Now it's on sale. And that's a real good performer for the money, no question about it. But this has, I think, slightly more detail. Both are very powerful, but this just felt cleaner. It felt like transients were a little faster, a little better reproduced. This thing is just, I'm smitten with it. It has been, like I said, I've been listening to it for several months now, and on everything with everything, and I just find it to be a really engaging, very involving, very rewarding product to listen to. So anyway, that is the FiiO K17. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that video. Hopefully you'd be willing to give me your like and your subscription. Your subscription does count a lot, as does your view. As I'm filming this, and by the time I get it edited and uploaded, we'll have passed through 20,000 subscribers. Thank you so much to everybody, my viewers, my members especially, my subscribers. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Also means manufacturers are really willing to talk to me, and I got some cool gear in and coming in and stuff that we're going to have fun playing with. So anyway, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in the K17, there will be a link to Apos Audio's website for purchase if you're so inclined. It will be in the pinned comment and in the video description. There will also be a membership link to the channel in the pinned comment and in the video description. In the video description will be a link to the headphone hi-fi playlist, plus 2 individual links for each of the tracks, and a text listing of the tracks. So if you don't do title, you can go look them up, cut and paste whatever into Spotify, Qobuz, whatever you want to use. There will also be affiliate links in the video description. You know the drill with that stuff. There is a link to our community post playlist. There's some wonderful stuff on it. Please check it out. And if you have a really cool playlist and you're willing to share it, send it to me and I'll put it in that community post. Comment, let me know. What are you thinking about headphones, desktop systems? I'm becoming more and more kind of engaged with desktop systems. I spend a lot of time editing videos and things like that, but I find myself sitting and listening with a good pair of headphones on more than I used to. And it's really been a fun kind of evolution for me. So anyway, comment, let me know your thoughts on that. I think that's everything I need to talk about. Again, please like, please subscribe, comment. You can follow me on Instagram if you're so inclined. My name's Ed Homewood. This is the Old Guy Hi-Fi channel, and it's now your duty to yourself, your obligation, to put on some beautiful music, maybe through your favorite pair of headphones, and just relax and have a wonderful time with it. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day.